you're about to leave town to go out for a big honor. What's going on?
Well, there's an organization, the name of which escapes me. What is it called?
It's like the History of Broadcasting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, the Idaho History of Broadcasting Foundation. And this foundation's been around for a while, but they really want to try to gather all the information about the history of broadcasting in Idaho, and they're even going to be starting up a museum because they feel it's important for those things to be remembered.
And little did we know that we're old now, and we are historical.
Yeah, I guess so.
We are a part of history. And at first I wasn't put off by it. I just didn't get it. But then, you know, as Jay and I started talking, and I realized that when I started in this market, we were on 16 millimeter film. And we've gone all the way from film drive, you know, and having to load a camera in the car in a black bag while you're driving, to just use my telephone and getting just about as good a video on those phones as you can get on a camera. That, we are kind of a part of history.
Things have changed.
We have
yes.
done a lot of it, yeah.
And what are they going to be doing tomorrow at this event?
It's actually Friday. We're going to drive up tomorrow, but it's actually on Friday, and they're going to just have a luncheon where they interview us while the people are eating. Then they're taking us across the street and doing like a 2-hour interview with each of us that'll basically be archived. You know, what our memories are and what we've seen happen to the industry over the last 30, 40 years. And there's kind of a comfort in knowing that those stories aren't going to be lost, because we had some good stories. We had some terrible stories, but we had some phenomenal experiences in growth from where we started with 3 people against that wall with 3 big pictures behind us.
In the same studio, yeah.
And this
Things have
studio
changed here,
now,
too.
it's like, wow, that's where we come in the last 30 years.
And we sent them some old video clips too that they're going to be showing at the luncheon. We go way back. Was it 1990 or 91? 1990.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were together till I retired at the end of 2019.
We're still
was that
friends.
Almost 30 years?
Yeah, almost 30 years.
Yep, we kind of rounded it off at 30 with me by the time I retired. But yeah, we raised our children kind of together. So Jay and Sally had 5 kids, and Kenny and I had 3, and they were little stair stiffs. We had one in every grade. And so for 30 years, in the 2-minute to 3-minute commercial break, we would talk about the issue of the day with our kids and how best we solve that.
That's right.
Stand by. We'd go back on the air and we'd go, and then Jay would go, okay, here's what we did.
Yeah.
You know? So we literally raised our kids together on the air.
These days, a lot of people will move from one job to another. What is it like to have the same coworker for 30 years?
Well, there's something very, I guess, comforting
That's
about
what
it.
I was going to say, comforting.
Yeah, maybe I just never was daring enough or had that much drive to want to get onto the bigger markets. But things were very comfortable here. It's a great place to raise a family.
Yeah.
You know, we've been around for a while, so there's a certain stability in the job market, and thinking that you wouldn't get fired or anything because you've been around for a while. So I think it's, you know, I think it's great if people want to move up. But I felt that I could be totally satisfied and found it rewarding just to stay here.
Yeah, my husband was not interested in moving. He's from Blackfoot, and so we just didn't. We made it work here. He was a contractor and had lots of contacts, so he was always busy. It was very good to start our relationship where really people know this about Jay and I. We couldn't be more opposite on a lot of things. I mean, in our religion, kind of, in our politics, in a lot of things, we're sort of the yin and the yang of Eastern Idaho. And we learned very early on, I'm not going to change your mind, and you're not going to change mine. So we just got along. We didn't even try. And it was, he had my back. Jay always had my back if I needed it, and vice versa.
Likewise. Yeah.
And it was just like, comforting is still the best word. It was just solid. We just knew, and we were doing something good for our community, which we loved. And we were of enough status, I guess you would say, that doors opened for us that might not have otherwise. So I felt like a lot of what we did as a team made Eastern Idaho a better place. I think we helped.
I hope so.
Yeah.
And you know, going back to having some differences of opinion on various things, but in a very respectful way.
Yes.
We'd never let that show up on the air. We both came out, you know, from the old school. I had a broadcast ethics class where you know, you could say fair and balanced, and some people use that. I'm not sure it really is, but but anyway, we just never let our opinions show.
And if we
on
did,
the air.
we tagged each other.
Yeah.
We just go that sounds a little. That sounds a little right-sided to me.
Yeah.
Or there'd be an ABC intro that was so left-leaning in its introduction, and I just zip right through it and think it was just fine. And Jay goes, I don't feel good about that coming out of my mouth. This is not what I believe, and so I'm gonna change the intro. I go, I got no problem with that. And so we kept each other pretty much on the straight and narrow.
Yeah.
You know, I think it helped us be more fair and balanced because we approached a lot of issues from opposite ends and then came into the middle where we're not going to agree, but I hear the substance of your points and you're hearing mine, and that's really all I care about. So let's just present it on the air in the middle. And we did. We corrected each other a lot.
So almost 30 years covering local news in this market. What are some stories that stand out to you?
You know, we're getting older and our memories aren't quite what they used to be, but I remember, well, a couple of them. Remember the Millennial Ball, Y2K?
Y2K.
The
whole world was going to come to
I
an
know.
end.
Yeah, we hosted, I think our station hosted
Yes.
a big ball.
A big ball.
At one of the hotels in Pocatello. And so that was very memorable, and the world did not come to an end on January 1st, 2000.
We
The
stood right
computer
there.
still worked.
I know, at midnight, it was still working.
Yeah.
And then what I remember about that is I'm a terrible dancer. I just don't know how to dance. And Jay actually took dance in college. And so he learned over the years that the way to dance with me is to go left, right, left, right, left, right. And we had to dance at that to get the floor started. And so as soon as Jay says, come on, we got to go out and start this dancing. And I was like, okay, but remember the rules. He goes left, right, left, right. So yeah, that was fun. I remember, we came in right after Teton Dam, right? Just barely after that. So we did a lot of anniversary stories on the Teton Dam. That
Every
always,
year.
Yeah, always had a big impact on us. Some of the ones that really stick out in my head, Christopher Tapp, who was sent to prison for 20 years for a murder he didn't commit. And basically sent there by officers that we knew personally and loved. And it was just so hard to see their case fall apart because we cared so much for them and considered them such professionals. And then to know this young man had done 20 years because of DNA evidence that he shouldn't have done. So I got really involved with that one. In fact, to the point that Christopher, one time I was at the fair. We were at the fair doing the fair thing. And this guy comes up behind me and gives me a big bear hug, It's kind of scared me a little bit. I had no idea who it was. And I turned around, it was Christopher Tapp.
Yeah.
He's just giving me a love, just free again out at the fair. That was a big one. Of course, the Vallow, Daybell case. Oh, boy.
And then going way back, there were other big murder cases way back in the 80s and 90s. Paul Ezra Rhodes and, let's see, Jerry Lee Underwood.
And then Stephanie, and I can't
Crane.
think, Crane, yes, from Chalice.
Yeah.
We've never found that little girl. I mean, that was years
Yeah.
ago. Disappeared out of a bowling alley in Chalice. Disappeared into thin air. Nothing. We covered that for years.
There were fires and floods too. The Yellowstone fire, 86, I think that was.
Yeah, that was before my time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there were big floods in '97. Oh, there was the eclipse. In,
Oh, that was a
2017
biggie.
was
Yeah.
a big story.
That
for
was
us,
so
too.
fun.
Yeah.
NPG put us live at every station, across the United States.
Yeah.
And so it would just move from one station to the next. And probably one of the most glorious, almost like a righteous religious moment.
Almost
When it
spiritual, some
became-
people said,
when
yeah.
it became dark like that, it was just something. And it was fun to be able to share that,
Yeah.
and with your friends. Yeah.
And then there were the fun stories. We talked a lot about crime and things like that and natural disasters, but the fair, for every year,
Yes.
since 1990 through 2019, we were there doing the fair together.
Yep.
Yeah.
And no telecom, so you had to deal
Yeah.
with people poking at you that were behind you, and some of them a little inebriated because it's
Yeah.
the fair. And
Yeah.
we had to deal with a lot, but we had a lot of fun at that. A lot of fun. Jay, I think one of your crowning glories, in my opinion, was all the years you devoted to Wednesday's Child and finding kids a home. Years and years and years of that. So
That was very rewarding
yeah,
also.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, Michael has a drink for us.
Well, I
A little water. Yes, I was getting a little.
Thank
I didn't know if
you.
wanted to. Thank you.
Water.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's like the old days.
I needed that. Thanks. Just edit that out,
Thanks, sweetie. That was really cool.
Yeah.
I'll put the here.
Thanks.
See you later.
Okay.
Todd, do you have any questions for him? You can come around here. Any other memories from 30 years of, almost 30 years of?
I remember bringing, Todd on, tall, lean, athletic. 30 years later, tall, lean, athletic. That always
Yeah.
kind of bothered me,
He-
I lived vicariously through Todd running marathons, like, tell me how
Yeah.
you did, Todd. How'd we do?
Yeah. And I remember when Michael Coates got married too.
Yes,
There was a marriage made at
Channel
local
8?
Yeah, Channel 8 here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all those years, and his kids now what in high school, Michael, I think. Yeah, that's something.
Could you talk about the bond with the community? Because you were coming into people's homes every night.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it still surprises me. I just met one of your new producers who said, I grew up watching you. I go, I hear that a lot.
Yeah,
Your age group did grow up with us in the living room every night at dinner. And I think part of what I think helped do that is we aren't like anchors in a really big market where you're a star. We were in their living room. We were a friend. I noticed in all my 30 years, I probably count on one hand where someone came up and said, Karole Honas, I watch every night. My name's Joe. Never offered their name. They never offered their name because certainly I must know them because we're best friends. You've been in my living room every night. But we didn't know them, but they felt that we did. It still happens. I don't go out, not one day a week that I'm not getting approached by someone saying, watched you all the time. And you have a responsibility with that. It's a big responsibility. I never went out without makeup on. I seriously never went anywhere without full face. It's a little easier for you guys, but I never went anywhere without full face on because I just felt like I had a responsibility to look proper for my community. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel very proud of all of Eastern, all our communities. I feel like connection to Pocatello, to Rexburg.
Yes.
I probably should stop naming the cities, to Blackfoot,
Yeah.
Without mentioning all of them. But yes, you feel a great pride being part of Eastern Idaho and having worked all those years here.
Mm-hmm. And we did in the old days, rounds was what we called them, news rounds, in person. And I still feel so strongly about that. We developed these just almost intimate friendships with the law enforcement, with our lawmakers, with
government.
Yes, and so you saw where they were. I felt comfortable enough with them to be able to call them and say, "I feel like you're way off base on this one. This is not what you want to do," and they listened. And there's a certain privilege there that we had in the community, is people would take our calls and they would actually hear our opinion. And it wasn't an opinion we shared on the air, but if we felt strong enough about it, they would certainly listen, and it kind of weighed in on their decision making. And I felt really good about that.
And Carol didn't hesitate to do that, by the way. I was not quite as bold, but but that's why we got along so well.
Yeah. I'd make those calls.
And you're going to be honored for your decades of dedication to the community.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. They said on the invitation we were the longest co-anchor pair in the history of broadcasting in the United States. Now, I'm not sure exactly how they found that out. I'm quite sure that's the case in Idaho because I'm familiar enough, but I can't imagine that anyone else would have stuck around, two of the anchors for, 30 years.
Like my work husband, and my husband at home. And Jay knows I'm kind of a powerful personality. There were a lot of times he just kind of had to sit back and let me blow, just vent, and he knew that. But I can remember one time you saying, "Gosh, it must be good to always be right." He goes, "You're just like Sally." I said, "So you have a strong woman at home," and I know Sally really well. We're good friends, and yes, she is like me in that respect.
Yeah.
And I think, oh, poor Jay. He just kind of takes it from both sides of the aisle with women in his life. So yeah.
And I just one more thing. I know. I think of football teams. I'm a big Aaron Rodgers fan, or was until he left Green Bay, because I'm a big Green Bay Packer fan. But I see these football players moving from one team to the other, and I think, aren't they loyal to this team? But I suppose they need to move. But I would have to say that it would have been very hard for me to go anyplace else, because I just have always felt a great loyalty to Channel 8
Yeah,
over
yeah.
the years.
And there were years Channel 8 did not deserve that loyalty. I'll be very honest with you. But we kind of did it for the people around us. You know, I got dubbed, you know, the mother of the newsroom. And I treated those coworkers like if they needed help, I was stepped in to help them. You know, whether it was to bring them food or volunteer my husband to do contracting work at their house that they couldn't afford, or you know, whatever. It was a family, very much a family. And our children graduated every 2 years and left us. And then one time Jay and I were sitting on the set, and one of the moms came in of a new employee, and after she left, Jay said, "I think she's our age." And I said, "Yeah, we have gotten old enough now that we are the parent age of the people we're hiring and working with." And I don't remember when that happened, because we both were 21 and we've hired 21-year-olds. Then all of a sudden we were 40 and we're hiring 21-year-olds. And that did change the perspective a little bit. So,
Any final thoughts, anything you thought I might ask and didn't?
well, I kind of like the way we were very careful at looking over each other's shoulders to balance each other. And so I would hope that you have that same effect on your employees for the future. That somebody that is a little more conservative is being or sitting across from someone who isn't. Because it's really good to engage in those conversations in the newsroom before you get out on air, because it gives you perspective. It's like, I need to know the other side. I need to know why you think that way. And then Jay would tell me. And I go, that I can definitely see where you're coming from. That doesn't work for me. But yeah, so I hope you can keep it balanced. And it's a challenge in this day and age, more so than any other time in our life.
Yeah, yeah, and I just think this whole industry of broadcasting is so important nationally, but especially in our local communities, because we're the ones who let people know what's happening. You know, if there's a tornado warning or if there are things that they really need to know about. It's always been very rewarding to know that we're making a difference.
Yeah.
We're making a difference in the hard news situations and in things like finding homes for children that need to be adopted or whatever the case may be.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's been a very rewarding career, and I'm glad to have shared it with Carol.
Same.